Welcome back to Autism Live. Joining us via Skype right now is Russell Lehman. He is known as the Autistic Poet, and we're thrilled to welcome him back to the show. Hey, Russell, how you doing?
Hey, Shannon, I'm doing great, thank you.
So glad to have you back. You're coming to us from Reno right now, but we should let people know that you speak and you travel all over the place to speak. In fact, travel is a part of what you do. I had misspoke earlier and said that that you had an event that happened that somebody was able to help you from United. It wasn't. It was from American. We have to give credit where credit is due. So let's kind of go back and set the stage. What happened, Russell?
So what led up to this is the day before the whole incident that has gone viral on social media, I was on my way to Michigan, and my flight was delayed, and I was unable to reach Michigan in time for my presentation. So I ended up getting stuck at the Salt Lake City airport for 8 hours trying to get back to Reno. All the while my checked bag is on the way to Michigan without me. And so I finally got home late at night, and the next day I was gonna go back. I was to fly out to Cincinnati, and I checked to make sure everything was on time, and it was. And then this is the day I encountered David. We ended up, me and the passengers on the plane, sitting on a tarmac for over an hour, and I was gonna miss my connection again and possibly miss my speech again, which was I just couldn't believe this was happening 2 days in a row. And so once they said I would probably have to miss my connection in Chicago and stay overnight there, therefore missing my speech in Cincinnati the next day, I started to have a meltdown, and I left the aircraft and got my bags and found an empty ticket counter to sit behind, and I succumbed to the worst meltdown of my life, and that's when David from American Airlines approached me.
Okay, and I want to say, there are probably, I think everybody can relate a little bit to the frustration sometimes when you're flying because you're not in control. And especially for people who don't speak, I know recently I had to speak at an event that had parents, and there's just nothing I would care more about than that. And I was in a car, and I was 30 miles away from where the event was, but it was in Los Angeles, and it was raining, and there were multiple accidents, and it took me a trip that should have taken me an hour. It's only 30 miles away, took me almost 4 hours.
Wow.
And I was so late, and I was on the phone with the venue saying, I'm on my way. And I wanted to get out and walk. I was in tears. You're just so frustrated because you're supposed to be someplace. You know that people want you to be there, and you want to be there, and you can't get there. And with an airline, you have even, I could have pulled over and been in my car and just said, forget it. At an airline, you're stuck, and you're stuck without your stuff sometimes. So it's very frustrating. So I can understand why but describe for people, when you say meltdown, you were crying, what was happening?
Yeah, so I started to, my whole brain basically shut down, and that's when I found an empty ticket counter to sit behind. And after, I sat down, I started to hyperventilate. I was crying a lot, and my mind was racing. My brain felt like it was on fire. I couldn't think at all. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. And just, the slightest amount of stimuli that I would see or hear or smell or feel would just exacerbate my symptoms. So I just started rocking back and forth, trying anything to help soothe, the pain that I was in.
And pretty vulnerable. It's a pretty vulnerable state to be at in a public place. And so David approached you, and what did he do?
He crouched down beside me, which in itself, is a risky move because, I'm a total stranger. He doesn't know what I'm maybe capable of, right? Especially in a moment like that. So he crouched down beside me, and, the first thing he did was show me compassion. And that's what I always preach, during my speeches is, when somebody's going through a rough time, whether they have autism or not, whether it's a meltdown or not, you got to show compassion. And that's what he showed me. And he let me know that I was safe with him. And he asked me what was going on. And I mumbled, I mumbled the words that I don't know, I think, and something about having autism, luckily. And so he reassured me that everything was going to be okay. And he let me know that, he asked why I was going to Ohio, and I told him I had a speech, and he said I can still get you there on time, on a different plane. And so, at this point, I couldn't really think. I didn't really want to enter onto another plane again, after what I'd been through. So he gave me some time to think. And after about 10 minutes, he came over with the pilot. He notified the whole crew and the pilot of the plane that could take me to Ohio. And, the pilot then crouched down beside me and showed me even more compassion, just like David did. And, they motivated me because I needed that, I needed that, and I needed a helping hand. And, I just couldn't have asked for more. If, David never approached me, I wouldn't have gotten on that plane, and I would have missed my second straight speaking engagement, and I would have just felt horrible. I probably would have succumbed to a severe depression once I got back home.
We're showing a picture of you with David in the airport right now.
Okay, yeah, great.
And you can see on your face that you've been through some stuff, and you can see what a nice gentleman he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, have you been in contact with him since this happened?
He has messaged me on Facebook because he, everybody that he works with has showed him the story, and he's being interviewed. A lot of media outlets have grabbed hold of the story, so he's being interviewed today for a news article, and then he's been nominated for a few prestigious awards by American Airlines, and they would like me, if he does receive those awards, they would like me to attend and meet him once again. And then the city of Reno, I met with the mayor of Reno 2 days ago, and she wants to put together kind of a celebration of sorts for him, so we can meet, and so I can thank him again for everything that he did, and just for the example he's showing to all of humanity.
Yeah. And so it's notable that you did get on a plane, and did you make it to your speech on time?
I did, thankfully. Yeah, and it was one of the best speeches I gave because I had so much, more material to go off that was fresh in my mind, and I talked about the airport experience, and it just really resonated with the faculty. I was speaking to a bunch of teachers who work in special education, and it just emphasized that compassion goes a long way to alleviating a lot of pain and suffering in this world.
Yeah.
And I think if we really kept that in the forefront of our minds as a society, we would be able to achieve much more together.
Absolutely. It's such a heartwarming story. And I think especially the moment, as you said, when he crouched down because he didn't know you, and you said he showed compassion. And I'm wondering, really analytically, what did that look like? Because I think we all want to show compassion and sometimes don't know how to.
Yeah, so he, like I mentioned the day before, I was stuck in the Salt Lake City airport for 8 hours, and I had a mini meltdown there, and I was met with nothing but stares and suspicious looks, and if not that, then people just pretending I was invisible, and that was very disheartening for me. So the next day when David approached me, he like I said, he crouched down beside me, and he just genuinely, I could tell his words were very genuine. Are you Russell? And I said, yes. And he said, what's going on, buddy? And just asking what was going on, and asking, beginning a dialogue, beginning a conversation, instead of ordering me,
you can't
to
sit here,
come out from behind the ticket counter or something like that. He began a dialogue to connect with him, to initiate that trust building, And that's what I take as compassion. He reached out his hand and say, hey, I'm here for you. If you want to talk, we can talk. We can make things better. And that's ultimately what we should be as just human beings, one another, whether we know the person or not.
Yeah. And you said, thank goodness that because you were in such an overwhelmed state that even getting words out was difficult, but that you said autism or autistic, you said something that let him know. And do you think that if you hadn't said that the outcome, because a lot of us have kids and we want to know, like, if our kid, all I could think, Russell, when I first read it was, I'm so glad somebody was there to help you, and I'd like to think that if my kid were in an airport that there would be somebody to help him. Do you think that it wouldn't have gone as well if you hadn't used those words?
I would like, I would like to think it would have had the same outcome if I didn't say I had autism, but I knew that I had to, get that word out there, because it is everybody's familiar with it. Whether they're aware of what it encompasses is another question, but at least everyone knows autism, the word. So I knew that if I could muster up the words and the coherence to say I have autism, that would give David some comfort too, because it's not like it's a two-way street. He's reaching out his hand, but I need to let him know that I'm not a danger to him.
Right.
And so I wanted to let him know I have autism, and I'm just really in a bad spot right now. And I think that gave him comfort, because he knew a reason behind why I was the way I was. At the same time, I don't know how much he knows about autism, and I but I think my gut tells me if I didn't say that I had autism, I want to believe the same outcome would have occurred.
I appreciate that, and I hope that that's the case too. But I do think, I'm glad that you did say it, and I love the way that's why you're the autistic poet, Russell, because of what you just said. It was so beautiful that it's the two-way street, and that it gave him comfort. What a wonderful way of looking at it. So I'm thrilled that Dave is getting some attention for this, because I know that there are people who go, well, why are we giving people attention for doing the right thing? And I'm like, oh, I got the easy answer, because then more people will do it. Right? And why not? Why not give praise to people for doing the right thing? It makes total sense to me, and I'm thrilled that you were, it's that ripple in the pond that it keeps moving out, because you were able to get to your talk, you were able to have that conversation with those teachers who will take that compassion into every single classroom they go into. And then, because you are so eloquent and such a good writer, that you put the story out there and you said, be more like David. Which is what we all need to be. I hope that we will do that.
I can't tell you how many messages I've received for people, moms of those on the spectrum, or just random people that have no affiliation with autism. They're like, wow, this really motivates me to be more like David.
Yes.
And that's why I wanted to push his story. I wanted to recognize David for what he did, because unfortunately it is a rare act these days. At the same time, I knew it would motivate others, because it just brings nothing but a smile to your face when you read the story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, if people are watching, Russell, and they're like, boy, this young man, they're looking at you and going, what an inspiration, how great he is with words. I want to go and see him speak. How can they find out more information about either getting to one of your events or having you speak at one of their events?
So all my information, my booking information, my scheduled speeches for this year is on my website, along with a bunch of media content and whatnot. And that website is theautisticpoet.com. And they can also follow me. I have links to my Facebook page on my website, and I keep everybody up to date with that. Wonderful. And my Instagram is autism_advocate_.
Okay. And you also have a book. Let's talk a little bit about your book while we're here. Tell us about your book.
So I wrote the book a while back, probably about 5 years ago now, and I'm almost done with my second book. I have a publisher, so hopefully that'll be coming out in early 2018. But the book right now that I wrote 5 years ago is called Inside Out, and I chose that title because when I wrote the book, I wasn't speaking at this point in time, and I knew I had something to give to society, but I didn't know how to give it. I didn't know what steps to take. So the opening line of the book is inside out. I feel like I'm open on the inside, but closed on the outside. I felt like I had so much to give on the inside, but I didn't know how to open myself out on the outside to give it to society. So the whole book, it's a brief autobiography of my life up until the age of 21 when the book was published. And intertwined in the autobiography are poems that express what living on the spectrum is like, whether it's OCD, depression, anxiety, sensory overload. And it's a short read, so it makes for a very inspirational read that is simple and easy and pleasurable, and something you can just refer back to on multiple occasions if need be.
And what's the new book?
The new book, I don't have a title for it yet, but it's going to be more about the lessons I've learned and insights I've gained over my very long 26 years.
I love that you're laughing at that because the rest of us will too.
Right?
I appreciate
that. You have to, and that's why I became a speaker, honestly, Shannon, is, I've learned to run towards my fears and not away from them, to embrace my challenges, because they made me who I am today. And I have to say I love who I am. And, when we run towards fears and challenges, we find out who we are inside. We have time to look inward and find out what we're made of, what we're capable of, and what we're capable of achieving. And we really become more in tune with ourselves. And that leads to becoming our own best friend, which will help out when we go through difficult situations in life. But to get back to the second book, it's I don't want to say self-help, but it's more, like I said, the insights that I've gained, the lessons I've learned. I just, when I speak, I give hope to so many parents and individuals and just the general public, and I want to put that in a book and have it reach a much further audience. And I think it's turning out really well. Like I said, I'm almost done, but hopefully it'll be coming out early next year.
Okay, and we should point out, because there are a couple of speakers that are on the circuit that we've had on the show that are, I'm trying to think, all except for Dr. Grandin are youngish men who are on the spectrum that are speakers. And somebody had said recently, is this a trend that, this is a hard job, and that you are working really hard every day to find opportunities to speak, and then the actual going to these events and speaking. I think sometimes people think that's a really cushy job, and I know for a fact that it is not. How do you manage the stress of that with planes that aren't getting there? And, talk just a little bit about what that's like so that people understand this is not just like, all hearts and flowers.
Yeah, so I'm still getting used to it. My speaking career is taking off like a rocket because I didn't travel to give a speech. The first time I traveled to give a speech was only 9 months ago. And this year I'll have gone to 24 cities. So I'm still very much getting used to it. But personally, I'm on the spectrum, so I take comfort in having a strict routine every day and all that, kind of eating the same things every day. And that's very difficult when you're traveling. And so I cope with it by, listening to music, deep breathing, meditating. But I also cherish it. I cherish it because I know every risk I've taken has paid off, whether it's a big one or a small one. And I always say, fear is nothing but opportunity disguised as risk. So whenever I'm fearful of, getting away from my routine, or the comfort of being at home and getting on a plane. I cherish it because I know who I am as a man, an individual, an advocate, is built upon the foundation of taking risks. And so I cherish any opportunity I get to take a risk. And I know um, that when I push through the struggle of traveling, of getting into a new city at 1 a.m. and then having to wake up 6 hours later in a different time zone to present, you know, I do it for the audience. I do it for the audience because that's where my heart resides, is in giving people hope and inspiration. And, I used to be very low functioning. I dropped out of public school in the 5th grade. I was pretty much nonverbal, too afraid of the outside world to talk to anyone other than my parents. And to see that, now I'm traveling the country giving public speeches in front of hundreds of thousands of people, I want to let the audience know that each individual, whether they have a disability or not, each individual has their own realm of possibilities. But given the right support, love, accommodations, that realm of possibility will only continue to expand. And that's really why I push through this hectic schedule of traveling and speaking, is because I want to make this world a better place, to put it simply. I want to get my message out there. I want the people to hear it, to go spread it to more people, and I want it to spread like wildfire. And I have a raging fire within me to not have the experiences and the pain and the anguish I've been through and continue to go through to be for nothing. I have to use everything I've been through to help others not only achieve their potential, but to help prevent them from going through similar circumstances as I have been through.
Well, this is just an example of why you are an inspirational speaker. And again, we want to tell them your website where they can find out more information about you.
Yeah, you can find all the information you want about me on my website, theautisticpoet.com. And you can, contact me for booking information. You can look me up on Facebook, Russell Lehman, Instagram, autism_advocate_. And yeah, I think that, just going to my website will give you the links to all those other pages as well.
And people should definitely check out your book, and we'll look forward to your second book. Thank you so much for telling your story and for what you're doing, Russell. You really are truly an inspiration.
Thank you, Shannon. I just want to say, when I hear words like yours, it's a mutual, because, when I hear words like yours, you give me inspiration to keep going. You stoke fire within me when I know I am making a difference. So I appreciate you having me on today.
You are.
I appreciate your kind words and all that you do for the community as well.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Let us know when the second book is ready.
Definitely, will do, Shannon.
Okay.
Thank you.